Hello everyone, here I am starting another course, Bioinformatics Tools and Analysis. In this course, we will learn how to implement different bioinformatics tools. Before we start working on bioinformatics tools, it's important to set up our work environment. In most cases, to run bioinformatics tools, we use command line interface. For that, we need to install Linux or Unix-based operating systems. You can install Linux distributions in your computer. If you are using Windows computer, you can also install Linux subsystem in the Windows. You can use their Windows subsystem for Linux, WSL. I am currently using this, so you can also install WSL in your Windows computer. Also, there are other options such as dual booting. Using dual boot, you can install both Windows and Linux operating system in your computer. To install WSL on Windows computer, I found this website is very useful. For example, it tells about the prerequisites, how to install. You need to open the Windows PowerShell as an administrator, then you can run this simple command. That will take you to the next step to finish the installation. Also, there are other options. By default, it will install Ubuntu, but you can change it to different Linux distribution. Another website that also tells about how you can install WSL on a Windows computer. You can download the Ubuntu app from Microsoft Store. In addition, there are many tutorials available on YouTube how to install WSL or how to perform dual boot on your computer. I would recommend to watch those videos on YouTube to install Linux operating system on your computer. Now, briefly I want to talk about shell, which is a program that acts as an interface between the user and the operating system. There are different types of shell such as bash, zsh, and there are few others. Bash is the most commonly used in Linux. Bash has configuration files such as .bashrc, .bash_profile, bash logout, etc. zsh is similar to bash but has some additional features. The configuration file for z shell is that .zshrc. I will briefly discuss about those configuration files, how to configure them to make your work environment. Here I opened my Ubuntu terminal. Now I will show an example how we can store variables and aliases to a Linux system. So let's check what is inside this directory. We'll type the command ls-l to list all the directories and files. And there is one directory named software. There is an empty file called text. So there are additional options we can add, for example, color, auto, then it will show directories in a different color. Sometimes we do not write the entire code. Instead, we use aliases using a simple variable name. Let's take a look how we can enter this line in our bashrc file. We will edit our bash file .bashrc file, which is in the home directory. Now I am opening it. Here I am editing. I am adding an alias, naming ll, and then I will type this enter command. ls-l color equals auto. Now I am saving this file. After editing bashrc, every time I need to source it. So let's now type ll. We can see it is printing the directories with color and also the file. So this is how we can add aliases for specific commands. Now I will show an example how we can install a bioinformatics software and how we can add its path to our environment. Right now I will install the BWA software, which is a short read aligner. I am on their GitHub page. So these are the instructions for installation. At first, we need to clone it from GitHub, then go to the BWS directory and type make for compilation. So now we'll go to the software directory and we will paste this command to clone, and BW is here. We'll go to the BW directory and use make to compile it. Let's check now whether BWA installation was successful or not. It's saying that BWA was not found, but we can see BWA is there. That means it cannot recognize the path. So for that, we need to specify the path. Now we can see BWA is running and it is showing the instruction how to use BWA. So that is also telling us the installation was successful. The important point here, we need to specify the path where the executable is stored. We can point the current directory, and also we can point to the entire path. If you run like this, it will also work. Now we will do something different. We'll go back one directory, and right now I am in the software directory. If you try to run BWA, it is showing us a message that command not found. It cannot recognize the BWA command because the Linux system does not know in which path BWA is installed. From software directory, if we again put the entire path of the BWA executable, we will be able to run it. So this is not always convenient to put the entire path before we run a software. Sometimes we want to put it as a variable onto our bashrc file so that we can run it every time using the simple commands. To do so, we will edit the bashrc file, and there was an alias. Now we will use a different command to add the variable for BWA. So the command is export path. Then we need to paste the entire path of BWA. We are saving this command, and again we need to source it. If we don't source, the changes in the bashrc file will not be reflected. I will show an example that without sourcing, if we use BWA, still it cannot find it. So now we will source the bashrc file, then we will type BWA. Now we can see BWA has printed all the instructions, and the Linux system can determine the full path of BWA from the bashrc file. This is how we can simplify our work by adding variables using export command on the bashrc file. There is another configuration file which is bash profile, but bash profile and bashrc has different purposes, and there are some best practices when to use bash profile or bashrc. One example of best practices is that we can source bashrc file from the bash profile using the 3 lines of code I'm showing here. Let's take a look into my bash profile. These three lines are sourcing the bashrc file into the login shells. For MacBook users, the default shell could be Z shell. Please find out what is your default shell. If it is Z shell, you need to edit the ZSHRC file instead of bashrc file. Also, you can change your settings to change from Z shell to bash. To work with command line interface or CLI, we need to learn more about basic bash commands. For that, I have started a separate course, which is Bash for Genomics, where we will learn about bash scripting to automate and streamline the tasks in genomic data analysis. Please find all other courses on my website. Thank you for watching this video. See you in the next one.